So this evening, we're going to enjoy ourselves. We're going to use one prop, which is a block. I'm going to lie down on the floor to start with. And knees high, hands behind, chin towards chest, draw the belly in a little bit. So you unpeel your spine into the ground, and we'll keep the knees high a little bit. You can take the hands overhead very loosely, just dropping them down towards the floor. I've just got a very simple bind of fingertips there, letting the elbows and shoulders roll down, trying to let my lower back sink a little bit and release. Okay, so I'm going to lengthen the legs out, pick up the block, and allow the feet to flex towards me, feet together, knees and thighs close, palms facing in, draw the shoulders down and the lower back as close to the floor as I can. So drawing the abdominal muscles in. And on the exhale of my next breath, I'm going to see if I can let the block go down towards the floor and touch the ground. And then lift it back up. I'm going to keep it nice and simple with the legs. So just going to keep them flexed and lengthening out through the heel. And as the arms go back, make a big effort to keep the lower back drawn into the mat. So seeing how the shoulders react. Interestingly, paying a bit of attention to how the arms actually go back. Do they go back evenly, or can I feel them sort of wiggling around a little bit, which would suggest that one shoulder is at least moving and firing a little bit differently to the other. We'll continue to bring them up. That's an inhale. And the last time going back, drawing the belly in. Oh, it's a tough one. And then coming back up. I'll slide the block behind the head, draw both knees in towards my body and take the hands on top of the knees and allow myself to make some nice big juicy circles with the knees in the air. So generally one knee goes out to the right, one knee goes to the left, and I'm allowing the spine to move around at this point. So the pelvis is tilting, getting a little bit of movement into the lower spine and the hips. You can take the knees in the opposite direction. There's times just to even that out. And then I'm going to draw the knees in, take the hands around the shin of the right leg, bring the left foot to the floor, slide it down what I believe to be the center line of the mat and lengthen out. And as I lengthen out, I'm going to draw the right knee in towards the chest. I'm going to draw the shoulders back. Bring the tailbone down towards the ground, to the front of the mat. And I'm going to slide the left heel back in, release the right foot to the floor close to the bottom. Swap over as the left knee comes in and slide the right heel out. So draw abdominals in, knee towards chest, hips evenly down towards the front of the mat. So becoming aware of the height of the hip bones. Should be the same distance to the front end of the mat. A little bit of internal thigh turning on the long leg, feet flexed, toes spread. And I'm going to release the held leg back to the floor, draw the right leg back in. And this time I'm going to take the hands around the back of the right thigh, interlace the hands, and lengthen the leg out above the hip. Foot is flexed, toes are spread. Trying to think of the alignment of the foot. So if you notice that your foot is turning off a little bit, you turn in from the hip. You send both sitting bones down evenly towards the front of the mat. Draw the belly in a little bit. And try to draw from the knee down, hip to the floor, and from the knee to the heel towards the ceiling. And we'll release. And we'll take that over to the opposite side and lengthen that leg up towards the ceiling. Now the bent knee, if it's hanging out to the side, you're rolling onto the side of your foot. We're going to try and draw that back to point up towards the sky. Remember, we're still trying to have the two hip bones feeling the same distance from the front end of the mat. That's our alignment cue in that direction. We've got the lengthening out through the leg in two directions at the same time. There's a little bit of pressure of the hamstring into the back of the hands. Release from there as well. So bring the feet down to the floor. Allow myself to take the hands out nice and wide with the shoulders, palms facing up. The knees are still high. I'm going to roll the legs over to my right side and then slowly turn the head to the left. Try to keep the shoulders on the ground. Draw the belly in a little bit and then start to flex the feet. And see if I can squeeze the thighs together. And imagine that you can send the top hip towards the front end of the mat. So you can actually sort of lengthen the space between your ribs and your hips. It's going to feel like it's getting longer. It's that feeling you're looking for. And trying to keep shoulders relaxed, even though the hips are very engaged. We'll bring ourselves back up and cross over to the second side. So just letting the legs go down slowly. They find their own place. You'll take a couple of breaths, kind of let the natural springiness of the muscles release and let go. Then we'll start to flex the feet and draw the knees together, which means that you're going to try to keep the knees as low as you can. You'll feel that extra stretch through the spine and the rib cage perhaps. And then again, this top hip bone and rib cage, you're going to get that as be as long a gap as you can. So you're going to feel like you're pressing it down towards the front of the mat, squeezing the thighs together a little bit. The feet are still flexed. And we'll release from there, bring the legs back up to the center. Little wriggle to realign, feet on the center line. We're going to take the left foot to the sky, turn the toes out for fig 4. So ankle to the outside of the thigh, the foot stays flexed. We start to draw the left knee as far forward as we can. We use the strength of the right leg to draw the knees in towards the chest. Take the left hand through the center, around either the shin or the back of the thigh. Do our best to find interlaced fingers, and then roll the shoulders and lower back, middle back down into the floor. And we'll release from there. that leg up and give it a little shake out. Roll the ankles around a couple of times. Put the opposite leg up on the exhale. Turn the toes out, bend the knees. Take a little bit of time to flex the foot and start to set up. The knee goes forwards. We're still thinking about the hip bones being the same distance from the front of the mat. Really lift up onto the tiptoes of the left foot. Use the left leg to draw knees in. Take one hand through the center, one hand around the outside. Draw down. Tailbone and shoulders to the floor. That nice long neck. A little bit soft in the jaw. Maybe the teeth are a little apart. Easy for me to do because talking all the way through this, so mine are anyway. Just in case you've started to clench a little bit, where you don't need to clench at all. Take a last couple of breaths here. And then we can release that leg to the sky, give it its freedom, bring the foot down. I'll roll onto my right side and ease gently back up onto all fours. I'm going to tuck the toes underneath with the knees fairly close together and bring myself into a toe squat. I'm also going to move that block a little bit further back already in anticipation. Allowing the weight to settle down into the toe joints, the arch of the foot, get that nice big stretch. Spine be nice and long, shoulders broad. We take the opportunity to work on the posture, every pose we can. And then we're going to slide ourselves forwards, bring the knees together, feet come apart, wider than the hips, drop the block down. So we're going to come into hero's pose. Now, if you don't need the block, don't use it. Arms out wide. We're going to bring the left arm across, the right arm over the top. Bend at the elbows, palms come together. I'm going to roll the shoulders back a little bit. And then release the hands out and just cross them over the other way, which is left arm over, right arm underneath. And then draw the shoulder blades together a little bit so they roll back. And you could do this with lifting the elbows to the height of the shoulders and keeping the shoulders down. That would give you even more stretch around the shoulders and the deltoids. But we are just warming up, so perhaps this is enough. You can always layer it up. If you're doing it first thing in the morning this class, then I'd definitely go less. Nice warm sunny day and you've had lots of stretches, then you can go a little bit plus. I'm going to release out of that. Allow myself to come into cat-cow, so I'm going to move the block out of the way. Come up onto all fours, just the knees, the hands out. Draw the chest forwards, roll the shoulders back, tailbone up, belly in, and then press down through hands, knees, shins. Draw the spine up as we tilt the pelvis down and let the head hang. Pull that through again. And exhaling out again. Different bodies, this is going to look like a slightly bigger pose in some people's backs than others, but it's what feels comfortable. We're being conscious to avoid pulling the head back too far, so it feels equally comfortable in the neck as it does in the rest of the spine. If you feel any compression, then give yourself a little bit of latitude. Maybe you don't need to press quite so hard. Maybe with a little more time, a little more breath. Might be just the way your spine is, or it might just be this evening. We'll come up for the last time. Come back into neutral. I'm going to take my knees deliberately as wide as my mat allows. Toes and heels together. I'm going to bring the hands back underneath, ready for cat's paws, and walk the fingers towards the outside edges of the mat in terms of where they're facing. Hands are underneath the shoulders. I'm going to let myself sink a little bit of weight down. And then I'm going to press the knuckles of the hands down to the floor. So particularly of interest is that index finger, getting a good connection to the ground. Been on a keyboard all day, that is a mighty good stretch. Going to release that and then turn yonder fingers towards you. And heel the hand away. So you want to make sure the heel of the hand rests on the floor. And then just allow yourself to draw the shoulders back a little bit. So you increase that angle through the forearms, which may well be completely upright or even less than upright. Some of us don't have as much flexibility in the wrist joints as others, just like the rest of the body. We just treat it with our own abilities. Let us define the pose rather than the other way around. Draw the belly in, let yourself lean forward so you can take the weight out of the wrists, give them a little shake. And then bring the fingertips up to the front of the mat. We'll just tuck the toes underneath and bring the knees back under so everything's hip distance apart. Draw the belly in and move into down dog. Yay! First one of the evening. So again, just sort of see how that feels. We're trying to get the spine to be as long and flat as we can, which for some of us will mean we bend both knees and lift the hips up and let the chest sink. Press the hands down. That gives us a nice connection there. Then maybe we can press the heels down. If you're particularly tight in the legs, you might still want to pump them out a little bit. Maybe the glutes are really tight, in which case pumping the legs slowly again has some benefits. Okay, now we're going to take a three-legged dog. So right leg lifts, hips are square. Going to come through into a plank, so three-legged plank. The press back to down dog and bring that foot gently to the floor. I'll take the left leg as high and straight as I can. So pressing out through the heel, you can point the toes if that's easier. And then come forwards, keeping the hips as high as you think the shoulders are. And then moving slowly back. So lifting the hips up, help the shoulders, bringing the foot back down again. Try to keep that as long and flat as we can for as long as we can. We'll come forwards again. Keeping the belly drawn in. Easing back. Leg comes to the floor. Another leg lifts. Come forwards. We press back. Leg comes to the ground. Now we'll take the feet as wide as the mat. Walk the hands back far enough to get heels to floor. Or the twisted version of down dog. So we'll start with right hand to left. So we look underneath the body to the side mat. We'll try and keep the hips over the center line as best we can and the legs straight. I know it's a big ask, but gradually the more you do this, the more aware, the more available the pose becomes. You keep the belly drawn in. Pant a little bit if you're talking all the way through. And then we change hands over. Go into the other side. And letting ourselves twist in deeper if it becomes available. Maybe you find just finding the leg is enough. If you're able to, you can actually use the hand to draw yourself in a little further. And then we'll come back out and move into regular down dog shape. So lift the hips up, pressing the hands down, and then we'll come into a plank. Bring the knees right down to the floor. Put the knees a little wider, toes together at the back. Going to sit up tall, and we're going to come into the swan flow. So I'm going to take the arms out to the side, palms come together above the head. Interlace the fingers. Index finger lifts up and points towards the sky. Now we're going to slowly let that extend up so the arms get really close to the ears. We draw the belly in, send the tailbone back. And as we exhale, we come forwards. And remember, you can do this with the hands in towards the heart for a couple of rounds, if you wish, just to kind of get the body to link all of the component parts up. We just roll the spine back out and then lift up. You can also bring the hands in towards the heart and do it that way, if you wish, to just give yourself a little bit of a breather. So if you've had a very hard week, maybe this is time to be kind. Roll them back out. I'm going to do 5 of these all together. Come up for the last one. Now, as I come down, I'm going to let myself stay down low, the elbows on the floor, about the same distance apart as my shoulders are believed to be. Palms are together. I'm going to interlace the fingers and little finger tucks underneath. And slowly lift my bottom up, away from the ground. Try and keep my shoulders over the top of my elbows, toes underneath. Take a breath, and on the exhale, I'll lift into a very down dog shape with the elbows on the floor. So this is called dolphin. Now you can stay here and press the shoulders back and the forearms down and the belly in, and stay there and just breathe if you wish. Or you can take it into more of an active pose by coming forwards, keeping the belly drawn in, exhaling, allowing yourself to tap the floor with your nose, and then press everything back on a big exhale into that dolphin shape that you started with. So again, you're either going to hold, or we're going to take 5, or a lower number could be possible. Keeping the belly drawn in and the bum high. Press back. 2 more of those by my counting, but I do get a little bit confused sometimes. Usually I do more rather than less, so that's good in some ways. Last time coming up. Ooh, and then knees to the floor, underneath the hips. Then let the hands release and just take the hands out in front, shoulder distance apart. Let the chest sink a little bit towards the ground. So a controlled release. I'm still pressing the hands down into the shoulders, letting the chest sink, the belly's drawn in, tailbone high. Press shins to the floor, toes back. And we're going to walk the fingers in, keeping low. So sliding along the floor a little bit until we can come back nice and easy onto all 4s. I'm going to tuck the toes underneath. Allow myself to sit back on the heels. Take a little breath. And then into a forward fold. Let the feet come as wide as the outside edges of the hips. Drop the bottom down. Ribs and thighs slide through. So ribs slide through thighs, head is low, and then just ragdoll back up. Try through the legs evenly. As you stand tall, bring the hands in towards your heart. We'll fold forwards. So long spine, weight into the toes, a little softness in the knees, let the thighs lift and come down, folding deep, and then release the bottom down to the ground, slide through the thighs again, exhale, roll out. Hands into the heart. And we're coming down for the final time. And fold it in, slide through the thighs, roll it out. Shake that out a little bit, move into the middle of the mat. So I'm going to take a couple of breaths there. Standing tall. Just letting the sort of head just catch up. Ears, blood, and everything else. And find a focus point. Bring the hands together. Take the weight into the left leg, so press that down. Allow myself to draw the right knee forwards. Then bring the heel in towards the body. Take the right hand down. Find your ankle. Draw the knee back. Allow yourself to find the end of your toes with your hands, so keeping the heel in towards the buttock. And then bring the knee down towards the floor, thigh by thigh. Keep the hips square. You can take the left hand out the side for balance if you need. You can try and draw the ribs down towards the hips towards the ribs. So we're drawing the abdominals in, we're getting flatter across the front of the body. And at the same time, trying to draw the knee down towards the floor. So you're pressing the knee down, heel into the buttocks. We're trying to squeeze the thighs together as close as we can, keeping the front body nice and flat. So a balance and a quad stretch. And then we'll release out of that leg. Give it a little shake. We'll take it to the second side. So hands in towards the heart. Press down through the leg, which is different to pressing back. Allow the foot to feel like it's spreading, getting a good contact. Left leg comes up, heel into the buttock, hand comes down. We walk out to the toes, so we can be quite liberal there. We're just moving into the pose. Ribs and hips starting to zip together. The knee down towards the floor, thighs together. Trying to hold it in and breathe at the same time. So that's a big ask. Pressing the knee lightly down towards the floor. Heel comes into the buttock. If it's touched, that's more than enough. You don't need to be any more than that. If it's not touched, it's towards that direction. We're trying to get thighs and knees to line up. So you'll notice that your pubic bone feels like it's moving forwards a little bit. Take one last breath and we'll release. On the exhale, bring the feet together again. Hands in towards the heart. We're going to press the left leg down. Right knee comes up. This time we're going to take the right hand on the inside of the thigh and we're looking for big toe. So hooking with index finger, middle finger around. The left arm can come out for balance. Going to lift up tall. Want to get the body as long and straight as you can first, and the hips and the knees, chest all pointing in the same direction. And then as you exhale, slowly lengthen the leg forwards, press out through the heel. Keep pressing down through the bottom leg so that it doesn't buckle underneath us. Try and keep the chest pointing in the same direction as the standing foot. And it's a little bit slippy on the fingers this evening, so putting more effort on the big toe hook, and then bring that back down. And we'll take it over to the other side. Hands into the heart. Load into the right leg. Feel the connection first before you lift. Slowly draw the left knee in. You're going to lift it as high as you can. Take the hand down on the inside. Limited amount of forward bend, and then draw the spine back up so the knee gets really high. You're really waiting for the hips still to open at that stage. And then as you exhale, just slow press. Maybe the leg gets completely straight. Maybe it doesn't. Try to lean back as much as possible. Belly's drawn in to help. Actually drawing the hip back a little bit, the press out through the heel, last breath. And we'll bring that back down to the floor. Shake that out, we'll come up to the front of the mat. Feet hip distance apart and hands in towards the heart. Exhaling down to the floor. And take the left foot back into lunge. Drop the heel in and come into warrior two. So for this evening's class, lifting the body, hands alongside. I'm going to open up into my warrior. Stabilize the hips, bring the hands above the shoulders, palms facing in. I'm going to turn chest and hips. Spin the heel on the back towards the sky. Drop down to the knee. Lift up. Trying to keep the body as upright again. So drawing the ribs and the hips together. So I'm squeezing the abdominals in. Working in this area here. I'm going to bring the hands down to the floor as the knee comes completely to the floor. Step back into down dog. Come forwards into plank. Now take half plank. Elbows into ribs, bootlaces down. Inhale for up dog, roll the shoulders back. Lift the hips up. And back into down dog. Draw that left knee in for lunge. Front of the mat. Strong back leg pressing out, fingertips. And then off with the toes into a forward fold lead. So sink deep. Then bring the hands under the hips, soft knees, flat back to lift up. Hands into the heart, second side. Go exhale down. Right foot back. Warrior two. Heel to heel. Lift the body. Use that right arm to help lift. Stabilize the hips, back foot still pressing down. Hands up above the shoulders. Shoulders are still relaxed. Turn the body. Spin the heel up. Draw the ribs in. Remember that little contraction we try to hold. Then we come down. And we lift up. Now there are lots of other alignment cues we could use, but those are the ones that we're focusing on this evening. If we overload with too many, we'll simply be here for an hour, just trying to get one pose right. So we're going to come up and down for the last time. Let the hands come to the floor. Back up into our down dog. Into our plank. Into our half plank. Bootlaces change, strong legs. Roll the shoulders back. Into our down dog. Right knee into the body this time. Lunge through. Fingertips. Push off the toes. And we're into the forward fold. Hands under the hips. And lift. Bring hands into the heart. Exhale down long and slow. Fold it in. Take the left leg back into warrior two. Use the arm to lift up. Float the hands again, high, rotate. Back foot stays planted this time till we arrive. Step back into plank. The feet are going to go to the left, right arm lifts for side plank. Lift the hips high. We'll come back down to the floor as we exhale. Back into plank, breath in. Roll it to the opposite side. Hands down, hands to the floor. Come forwards into half plank. To up dog. Down dog. And we'll draw left knee in for lunge. And exhale. Hands on the hips. Lift you up. Hands to the heart. Exhale down again. So, right leg back. Heel drops in. We open up. Warrior two. Inhale the hands high. Rotate. Lengthen out. And down. Spin the heel into our plank. Take a breath in. Keep the hips high. We'll go right, left arm lift. Hand down. Back to the center. Breath in. Exhale. Right hand lift. Back into the center. Take a breath. Forwards for half plank. Up dog. Into down dog. Right knee in for lunge. Back into that higher position. Press out through the heel. Off over the toes. Forward fold. Hands onto the hips and a little lift. Hands into the heart. Exhale down to the floor. Left foot back into lunge. Keep the heel high, strong back leg. Plant left hand, open to the right. Keep the hip bones the same distance from the floor. So you can kind of drop in, you get a bendy knee, ankle goes out to the side. We want it nice and straight. And then the rotation is clear. One more breath. Hands come back down to the floor. Step back into our down dog. Draw the left leg in, lunge. And we'll take right hand to the floor. Press out through the back leg. Left hand into the twist. Hands to the floor. Drop the heel in. Lift into our warrior two. Hands come high. Rotate down to the floor. Step it back into plank, half plank. Up dog. Down dog. We'll draw the right knee in and through. Take a breath. And step it forwards. Hands onto the hips and we lift. Hands come into the heart. We exhale down to the floor. And we take the right foot back. We open to the left. Hands come down, we step back. Down dog. Right leg comes forwards. And we twist to the right. Hands come back to down dog. Plank. Half plank to up dog. I think I might have got it wrong. Never mind. Exhale back into down dog. Right leg comes in. Warrior two. We'll open up. Inhale high, back down to the floor. I think I stuck an extra up dog in there in half plank, but it's all good fun. Come through, finish that off. Inhale up, back into down dog, left knee in for the lunge, and then stepping forwards. Hands onto the hips, and exhale. I watched that back on the video one day and realized where I got lost. It was all good fun. We'll have a little resty period here. Hands by the side or into the heart, your chest. Choice rather. Working the feet, spreading them out. Get a nice connection with the ground. Okay. And take a little breath here. Slowly come forwards, down, and just soften the knees just a little bit. And then just sit back into Dandasana. Just going to lengthen the legs out. Got my block fairly close by the side. Feet are drawn back, hands out to the side. Again, I'm going to draw the ribs down and the hips and the pelvis up. So I'm going to kind of get a nice strong feeling through the core. I'm going to slide the heels towards me. Allow myself to take my hands through the center of the legs, so I need to open them up a little bit. Hook the big toe. Bring the knees in a little closer. Let myself lean back a little bit. And then as I exhale, slowly lengthen the legs out. I want to squeeze the thighs together a little bit. Press out through the heels. Roll the shoulders back. Still trying to keep that connection with the ribs and the hips. So if you're able to keep the balance, work on that. If you want to take the hands away, you can. But this is a nice time to work on that core connection. Sometimes elusive to us. And then we'll release and back into our Dandasana. Still holding on, nice and strong through here. Lengthen the legs out. And then I'm going to slide the heels in again. Take the hands through again, so we get 2 times to play. Lean back a little bit. Exhale the legs gently out. Didn't quite get my breathing right there on the lift. And release. Feet to the floor. Lengthen the legs out. We'll take the block behind, use the fingertips to lift up. We'll slide the left foot under and to the back. Right foot across for a seated twist. Both sitting bones down. Pelvis tilts forwards. The arm lifts. Rotate over to the right side. Hand comes behind the hip. Look over the rear shoulder. Lifting the chest. Try to press down through the foot that's on the left side of your mat. And relax the bottom leg. And we'll release from there. Lengthen the legs out. And come across to the other side. going to take the legs forwards just a little bit. I'm going to lift up and allow myself to bring the block underneath the back of the heels. So I'm going to come into that heel squat. So just take a little time to set up. Bring in the heels to the corner edge, toes pointed out a little bit. I'm going to lift the spine, draw the abdominals in, just that same process, hips and ribs connect. Nice and long. Allow yourself to press the arms into the thighs a little bit, walking the fingertips out. If you want to take that a little further, you're going to walk the right hand out, take a little bit of a lean, twist to open the chest to the left, and then extend the arm out, following the chest, looking towards the hand. You're trying to keep the knees as wide apart as you can, so you're using your own muscles on that left leg to hold it open. Back of the arm and the leg on the opposite side, so you get used to that connection in the back of the tricep. We'll bring the hands back down to the floor to take the opposite side, or stay on the center. If you're just working on the arms and the legs, we're going to rotate. Going to follow that out. Keep the spine long, the core drawing in. And I'm going to release, bring the hands down. I'm going to turn the feet in a little bit more comfortably and take the hands out. Nice big spread into the fingertips. We're going to come into crow. So I want my hands to be as wide as my shoulders. I'm going to see if I can get my knees as close up to the back of the armpits, top of the triceps. I'm going to keep the belly drawn in that we've been working on all evening, and then lean in and gradually lift my bottom up, come up onto the tippy toes a little bit, allow the forearms to move forwards. And if you feel that you have your balance, you take one foot away from the floor, the other foot comes away, and keep drawing the core muscles in and up. Squeezing the arms, thighs together. Got one more little lift. Difficult when it's hot and sweaty. And then we're back down. And we'll take the feet and allow the legs out in front for a well end dandasana. So hopefully no headbutts, no nosebleeds. Or if it was a headbutt, or at least a very slow, controlled one. Now I'm going to allow the left heel to come into the groin, knee out to the side, square the hips, little bend in the knee, thighs point up towards the sky, foot is flexed, lift up, and fold over. Now, a nice thing about the summer months, and it being a bit warmer, is that we're a little bit more malleable. Muscles are a little bit longer and flow a little bit easier. So you might notice that after this evening's flow, that you can get down quite low into the pose, which is nice. But just remember, it might be partly to do with conditions and having a warm body, which is why we listen to our body, because come December, it might be feeling a bit different. We'll let the hands come to the floor and let ourselves lift up. And take that across to the other side. Square the hips, knee out to the side. You can always pack that with bricks and blocks, towels if you need. Bend in the knee as much as you feel you need. It's going to be appropriate to you. Allow yourself to draw forwards and fold onto the thigh a little bit more than perhaps you would normally. So trying to draw those two together. Take the hands around the foot or down the side of the ankle. Ideally, big toe, little toe joints are the same distance from your body. And that helps toes to point out towards the sky and that little spread. You avoid overstretching the shoulders. We don't want them wrapped up around the ears. We want them relatively loose. Last breath in. Bring the hands back down to the floor and we'll let ourselves lift up. So we're going to take the legs out wide and just wiggle a little bit more onto the front sitting bones. I'm going to bring my left heel into the groin, so the shin and knee to the floor. I'm going to sit up straight and turn towards that left knee, so the right hand is coming across. Now, whilst I'm doing that, I'm actually trying to tilt the pelvis forwards a little bit, get both sitting bones on the ground, rotate through the spine, and have the extended leg, toes towards the sky, foot flexed and pressing out through the heel. I'm trying to get the heel and the calf connected to the ground at the same time. Enjoy the twist. So this is like 50% of the pose that it would become, but these are all the preparation points, and it's getting the engagement of everything before you take the final part, which we're not going to be doing this evening. This is just really sort of neural pathway practice. We'll take it to the opposite side. It's also good for the groins and the spine. We sit in, tilt the pelvis, rotate round, turn the chest, allow ourselves to take the hand round onto that bent knee, working out on the straight leg. Now this is slightly easier to get, unless you've got big calves, and slightly easier to get the calf and the heel on the ground if you're off block. Again, you need to think about whether you're pressing your knee down as a consequence of that request. And if it is, then you need to lift a little bit. Seems ironic, doesn't it, after telling you to do it the other way? And then we can release from there as well. So quite strong in the old hip department. Take the legs forwards. Going to come off the block towards the other end on the mat. Legs out in front, sitting up nice and tall. You're going to bring the thighs together. So I'm going to rotate them in a little bit, squeeze the thighs in. Going to lift the knees just a fraction. Hands onto the shins, lift up and fold from the hips forwards. Draw your chest towards the front to the mat, into the distance. I'm able to take my hands over the top of the toes and draw myself continually forwards. If you're not able to do that, then hands around the shins and ankles. Again, we'll be careful not to draw the shoulders up around the ears too much. I've got bent arms. I'm drawing them back and my body forwards. And I'm still trying to squeeze those thighs in and rotate them in just a little bit. You'll gradually feel a difference in the texture of your buttocks and your hamstrings as you do that. If you're started them with them facing outwards, you don't like moving inwards, this will be a nice muscle contraction. You'll feel the lengthening. Release out of there. Slide the hands back up. Now move down to the floor. Knees high, chin in towards chest, arms behind, core drawn in. Use my way down. So unravel the spine. I like to use the block underneath the back of the head. I take the arms out wide, crucifix style, feet come in towards my bottom. Can we go to the right first, and to the left? And just let myself relax. Exhale the legs gently back up. Realign if we wish. Roll gently over. Lift the legs again. This time, slide them out towards the ends of the mat. The legs just roll open. I'll bring the arms a little closer into the body. Still want a little bit of space under the armpits to let some air circulate to help with cooling. And just wriggle out the hips and the shoulders to get everything as feel as long as I can. And as I close my eyes and loosen the jaw, I'm going to let everything just release and yield downwards. Begin to stretch those fingers and toes, the wrists and the ankles. Begin to move a little. Take some deeper breaths. Use the energy, that prana, to stretch ourselves out. And we'll let the legs slide back in towards the body, so heels drawn along the floor. Keep it easy on the muscles in those hip flexors and the lower back. Draw the knees in towards the body for a little hug, rock and roll, or hip circles, whatever feels good. And then we'll roll over to our right side. Use the hands on an exhale to lift up. And we're in to an easy sitting posture. Nice and full, hands into the heart. We take a breath in with the eyes closed. Slowly as we exhale, let the chin drop. Draw the belly in and bow to the floor to seal our practice. Inhaling, lifting. Letting the eyes open. Namaste. Thank you very much for joining me. Hope you enjoyed. So you want to be a crow. See you soon.